Can Mo Salah be replaced? Hi, I'm Wayne and welcome to Goals by the Numbers. Let's just get straight into it. So, there's been a post on social media by Mo Salah explaining that at the end of the season he will be leaving Liverpool. Now, the first thing I thought was, doesn't this guy have a 3-year contract? But despite that, he's still going to leave at the end of the season and on a free. So, on one hand, you think Liverpool losing out on a potential transfer fee, but also at his age, how much would they realistically get with the size of his contract, which, depending on where you read, could be anything from £300,000 to £400,000 a week before tax. So, Mohamed Salah signed for Liverpool in 2017 from AS Roma. He's helped Liverpool win various titles, so Premier League twice, Champions League, FIFA Club World Cup, FA Cup, UEFA Super Cup, a whole host of trophies. So I think in the annals of time, he will go down as a Premier League and a Liverpool legend. I have to add Premier League legend because even as a rival fan, I do appreciate the efforts, the output, what the guy's done over such a period of time. Would he be regarded as more important to Liverpool specifically than, say, a Gerrard, who was more my time? Hansen was a bit before me, so I don't really know, but I know he's quite well thought of in the Liverpool fan base. I suppose we can argue about that in the comments, but he will definitely go down as a Liverpool legend. So I guess the question will be, where would he go next? Who knows? We'll have to wait and see what the rumor mill does once it starts to build up and gather momentum. However, in the meantime, who could Liverpool actually replace Salah with? But before that, one question we should actually answer and clarify, or question we should clarify. Cristiano Ronaldo and Mohamed Salah. One player is better than the other. The other is leaving Liverpool at the end of the season. When I look at the period of time both players were playing in the Premier League, Salah came in at an older age, having had come from Roma, having previously been at Chelsea. Ronaldo came into Manchester United as an 18-year-old, so we saw him grow and develop for a few years, then start an output when Salah was already more of a developed player. So then I thought, okay, how can I find a direct comparison between the two? When comparing Mohamed Salah directly to Cristiano Ronaldo and looking at the season in which both players scored the most amount of goals, one thing became clear. This is the good thing about numbers. They're really easy to differentiate. Ronaldo ended up with a goals per 90 of 1.02, whereas Salah ended up with a goals per 90 of 0.99. So with that in mind, we know who had the highest output per 90. I think at this point, considering both players did play in different eras, that's the real thing we have to compare them on. Otherwise, it's just recency bias. So, 3 candidates who could come in and replace Mohamed Salah for Liverpool. Now, I don't envisage someone coming in and being a direct replacement, because realistically, we're talking about silly names and silly numbers at that point. I would think what Liverpool would look to do would be to replace Salah's position in the team and just essentially change their style of play, so the creativity and all the goals will then fall to the main striker as opposed to Salah chipping in with a hell of a lot of goals. So, the first option, the potential bargain. Mohammed Kudus is currently plying his trade at Tottenham Hotspur. Now, due to the fact they are currently hovering above the relegation zone, if they were to actually go down and get relegated, you'd end up with a player who currently is probably valued at about 60 million. But if Tottenham Hotspur do go down, which would be absolutely insane when you think of the Premier League and the structure and the teams and the finances, but we would see a fire sale that we've never seen in England. And Kudus is 100% one of the players who would look to leave simply because he's just too good to be in the Championship. So with that in mind, you have a player who wants to leave. We'd knock off like a chunk of that value down to potentially 40. Again, He's valued at 60, I think it's a fair price. But if you got a relegated player, you need to sell him. His wages are too high for the budgets that's going to be in the Championship. And yes, Tottenham would get a parachute payment, but is it enough to cover the whole squad? I think not. Now, again, I think with these three signings, the aim wouldn't be to find someone who's going to score the same amount of goals from the same position. So when Kudus comes in, he would just fill in the right flank in a similar fashion to what Gakpo does on the left or Chiesa does, I think actually on both flanks. So functionally, you're going to get a lot more play going through the number 10, be that Wirtz or I guess Szoboszlai, who at this point is still the more reliable option. So on to our second option, the youth prospect or the hometown prospect from Spain. Nico Williams, at just 23 and already a European champion for Spain, should be looking to move to one of Europe's elite clubs this summer. A player who actually predominantly plays on the left, wouldn't be a direct replacement because he plays on the opposite side to Mohamed Salah. However, Liverpool, assuming they continue moving forward with wingers or wide players, they don't have a prominent winger outside of Salah. So I could see I could see a scenario where Williams could come in, he could choose to play on the left, and others, so Chiesa, Gakpo, maybe Szoboszlai, would just start on the right, and they would play in the Salah position. One of the key strengths of Williams is his pace and the fact that he loves to run and dribble. Now, again, like Kudus, Williams is not a prolific goal scorer. In fact, he's never scored more than 6 goals domestically in La Liga. But one thing that was interesting is the most amount of assists he got was 11. So this might be a player who, again, assuming the number 10 is going to be the main creative hub and the number 9 for Liverpool is going to be the main goal getter, this could be another player who chips in with assists, gets a couple of goals, maybe say 20 goals and assists a season would be a good output. And at just 23, he's got years to run in his career. I mean, Liverpool could have him for a good 7, 8, 9, 10 years potentially. Now, players in Spain legally always have to have a release clause. And I'm pretty sure Nico Williams' release clause is about 100 million. Don't hold me to that because the release clauses, and depending on who you listen to, they seem to move from one value to another extreme to another value based on who's telling you the rumour. However, if the player is worth 100 million, it has his release clause, and it's another good showing for Spain in the World Cup, I could easily see this being a player who, whilst probably being valued at 60, again like Kudus, is going to be costing 70, probably more like 80. So why would a player cost 20 million more? One, if he does move, you're going to get several clubs trying to sign him. And two, Williams plays for Athletic Bilbao. Now, why that club is interesting is they only sign players from the Basque region. So you have to understand, if they sell a player who's come from the Basque region, they're only going to bring another one through. Now, any Basque player can play for any club in the world. I mean, Ander Herrera also played for the same club, went to Manchester United and is now playing for Boca Juniors. But that also meant that he had to be backfilled by another Basque player. So Atletico are going to want to get their money because not only is this cash going to come into the club and help fund it, but it's going to have to help them develop another player from their youth team to be backfilled and to come into the position. So this takes us on to the last option, the premium option, if you will. That would be Michael Olise, who's currently at Bayern Munich. Olise, a current French international. Now, let's just go straight to the bottom line. While playing at Crystal Palace, he showed great potential, but after moving to Bayern, his ceiling continued to rise and rise and rise. Last season, he actually reached 27 goals and assists. Now this season currently, which is still ongoing, he's on 28 goals and assists. That being 11 goals and 17 assists. This is a player who matches flair with great technique, work rate, likes to play on the same side of the pitch as Mo Salah, but rather than being an actual goal getter, he looks to create Now, I think for me, the question I would have is, personally, I don't trust Slot to decide what he has for breakfast. But what would the actual club do? Would the club say we want to sign the absolute high tier player, such as an Olise? But if they did, one, he's 23, like Williams, so you could have him for 10 years. The issue I think Liverpool are going to have is the fact that if they sign him, we're easily talking 150 million. A player who has a couple of seasons of more than 20 goals and assists at Bayern, so he's got the added pressure. He's gonna cost a lot of money. Now, one benefit to Olise coming back to England, is the fact that he had several years at Crystal Palace. So there will be no real adaptation. He understands the league. He just has to come back and get up and running again, but just in a red kit. So, what do we think? We have three options. Currently, those are just options that I've come to the conclusion to by looking at a bit of data, thinking of playing styles, and ultimately, I think we're also, opinion, not data, I think we're also at a phase where football is changing again, and we're moving away from wide players who score goals and back to strikers who score goals. I mean, the fact that Semenyo and Doku seem to be playing quite frequently at Manchester City, and Pep, the manager at Manchester City, has influenced the playing styles of so many other teams. I think, yeah, we're signing Isaac with the idea of pairing him with Wirtz. You just need a winger who's going to create and score goals, which is why Olise would be the premium choice. Now, at one point, when Olise did move to Bayern, Ineos at Manchester United were looking at him. And I don't blame Olise for going to Bayern. That was definitely a better career move because he's now going to win trophies. So, what do we think? Three players who I'm sure would love to throw the hat in the ring to join Liverpool and potentially be the Salah replacement. What do you think? Has someone been missed? Are these suggestions terrible? Or do you think Liverpool really should go for Olise and just put their hand deep in their pocket? I'll catch you in the next one.